bolted a hole in the dock
Or was he
wall.
just proving a point?
I think he's just been a dick. So police took the lighter from him, obviously, after they discovered that. And they were quite polite. They said, look, you need to go to the loo before we stick you back in here. And he said, nah, it's all good. But, of course, when the door shut, he demanded to be placed in the cells, A, so he could lay down, and B, so he could take slash.
Yeah. So it must just be a phone. It's a phone booth.
Literally,
you
it's
can't
like
lay down.
a holding cell made of perspex.
Isn't that cruel that Telstra made those phone boxes like that? Because they thought, well, we're going to have homeless people try and sleep in these things.
Yeah, and piss in them.
And piss in them.
And that's why Superman's not
That's
around
why
anymore.
phone boxes used to have like an inch gap between the cement and...
to let all the bodily fluids drain out.
Telstra, you really don't care about homeless people. Well, you don't care about your customers.
They make a lot of people homeless with the size of their bills.
Exactly right.
But anyway, so where were we? Oh, that's right. He was being demanded to be taken to the cell so he could have a slash and a lay down. But didn't stop there.
No.
Right. So he was quoted as yelling at the police and basically said, if you don't put me in the cells, I'm going to piss everywhere.
Right.
So police ignored him, as you do, because he's just been a dick now, right? But he basically, I'm going to read this word for word because I love this phrase.
Right.
When police ignored him, he urinated in the dock, which had to be forensically cleaned.
Forensically cleaned?
Yeah, well, drunk, like nasty axe-wielding dudes piss, man. It'd probably eat through that perspex. The moral of the story on this one, Benny, is that realistically, when you've been a dick and you're out of options, you really do need to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run.
What if this guy knows genital origami, though?
Well, he knows when to fold them.
Ew.
This is The Burble with Benny and Az.
At school, I tried to study as much as I possibly can, even though in year 12... I'm getting to that. Let me get to that. Year 12, Francine, don't you give me that look. I'm telling you right now. Patricia... Okay, because I know that I kind of studied. You kind of studied as well. Didn't get anywhere.
I kind of failed too.
Kind of failed. We're on a podcast, for God's sake. We're on a goddamn podcast. But a principal of a prestigious girls' school says students should be able to use Google during their HSC exams.
What?
I know. Like, we are handing education on a platter to these kids now, and I cannot believe it. What used to have to be crammed into cranium, and I'm pointing at my forehead for this, you had to remember this stuff. But now they're saying you should be able to access Google to do it. Is the principle of in
here we go.
He's voiced his support for students being allowed to use the internet and search engines such as Google on mobile devices as they sit their final HSC exams. He thinks changing the way students sit the exam could add more depth to their learning, saying that many enter exams having memorized entire essays.
Isn't that the idea?
That's the idea. That's what we had to do. That's exactly what we had to do.
Shove them into your head.
Yep.
Learn it.
Learn it. So it's like verbatim.
Because one day you're going to move into an area that doesn't have 3G coverage and you're not going to be able to ask Siri.
Exactly right. Like, Siri, how do I pass my exam? This is ridiculous. He's the principal of in... I'm sorry. Sir, you are a idiot. You are the deepest level of idiot I think I have ever heard of.
Actually, no. He's a shrewd businessman. And let me tell you why. A few weeks ago, there was a bit of a scandal in America about the rich and famous getting their children into college when they didn't know which end of a soldering iron to hold, right?
Is this Laurie Loughlin?
Oh, yes.
From Fuller House and Full House fame, yes.
Exactly what I'm talking about. So this guy's trying to legitimise buying grades. You don't see a principal in, say, Penrith or Surrey Hills going, hey, we should use Google.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But I bet you, if they were allowed to use Google, the prices for that school would go through the roof.
Look, he says, and I quote, he reckons the HSC exams have become outdated and has little to do with the real world. Memorising things, learning things, bettering yourself. Okay, so look, I hate this everyone gets a participation ribbon at athletic carnivals for primary school students. That shit is stupid.
You don't have enough storage space on this new fancy desk for me to rant about that.
No, I'm going to go for it, okay?
All right.
That's stupid. Kids need to learn that there are better people than themselves in the world, and it is competitive. I'm sorry, it's always been that way. Let's go back to, say, the Colosseum in Rome, okay? Animals, gladiators, all in the center. It's a bloodlust for all the upper echelons of Rome, sitting in the stadium seats, who are there just to see their champion win. It's the same at football games. So at the end of a football game, say, for example, my team, the Roosters, and your team,
the Pornhub
Panthers, are playing. Now, the Roosters mop the grass with you, okay?
Right.
We win 48-10. Are you telling me that we need to celebrate the performance of the Pornhub Panthers over the mighty Roosters as being the same level? This is exactly what they're teaching kids at the moment. And if you're a teacher in this situation, and if I'm wrong, get in touch with us, the Burble AU on Facebook. I'd love to hear from you about this. What are they teaching kids? That it's a pat on the back just for participating? Like, they're not going to hand out merit ribbons to the losing team of the Pornhub Panthers after they've been flogged.
No.
It's up to Ivan Cleary to thrash the shit out of them verbally.
Rip the odd door off its hinges in the change room.
Rip the odd door off, okay? But making Google available during a HSC exam means, to me, that these kids that, say, go to a western suburb school that may not be as prestigious as one on the North Shore or the eastern suburbs, that's an even playing field to me. That is ridiculous. And I've got to tell you right now, I don't support this.
No.
If he's a shrewd businessman, he's a
He certainly is. This is the problem. Like, kids like this that are now told that you're all as smart as each other and as good as each other, and every child gets a prize.
It's stupid.
Turn into these horrible entitled millennials that grow up, that need safe spaces, that need a hug, that need to eat kale, and need to go, well, no, I have an opinion too, but my opinion's better than yours because it's my opinion. Now,
we're not going to get young people to go and work jobs, say, for example, at, I'm going to say, the supermarkets. Let's just say they get a job at the supermarkets because they can't get a job doing anything else because they've failed at school.
But see, the thing is, everyone's good at something and they like doing their own thing. So here, I'm going to use some learning here.
Ooh.
Yeah. So if everyone gets to use Google in their exams, then we don't know who's really good at maths. We don't know who's really good at English. We don't know who's really good at, like, anything, because all they did was ask Siri, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the greatest thinkers of our time, Albert Einstein, said...
Gee, I thought you were about to say Elon Musk.
No, not this time. Maybe later in the show.
Yep.
He said, a fish is a wonderful creature, and so is a monkey. But if you judge a fish on how well it can climb a tree, then that fish is shithouse.
Shithouse.
Well, he didn't say shithouse. He probably said shizen, but I'm paraphrasing.
You are paraphrasing.
So honestly, he said, like, you know, everything's good in its own right, but if you judge it all on the one yardstick, then half the shit's going to be wrong.
Look, students are now required to stay at school until they're at least 16 or 17 years old, and school leavers are required because the school certificate has now been, you know, when we went to school, mid-90s, school certificate, you could leave with a school certificate, obtain it, go on and do an apprenticeship or something like that.
Yeah.
And there have been many people that we went to school with that we still know now who attained the school certificate, left in year 10, school wasn't for them.
No.
They've ended up getting apprenticeships, and what they've done is they now have successful building businesses, carpentry businesses, electrical companies, plumbers, all those types of trades, which are important to learn. They reckon that there's a trade shortage with Australian kids, okay? Australian kids, because all these days, these companies now, these construction companies are just hiring people from overseas who are underskilled, who don't have the same learnings and things.
Because they'll do the work.
Exactly right. They'll do the work for as cheap as it can be. Just look at the Opal Tower at Homebush, for example.
Yeah, well, that's probably not a great example.
It's not a great example, but it's an example of how...
But, I mean, you've got to get people to do the work for you. When all the friggin' Australian kids that are coming out of school now going, oh my God, are those bricks gluten-free?
Yeah.
Oh, no, this is going to hurt my hands. I'm going to need 3 breaks a day, and I'm going to need a safe space. And anyone that's eating meat at lunch has got to go off site.
And it has to be halal.
Like that.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Now, the principal of the school, Mr. has said that the current education system has been reduced to a memory test. Now, sorry, I remember having one of those charts, my times tables on the back of the bathroom door.
Absolutely.
And you had to learn them shits.
Yeah, but that was early on in school.
It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. That is the exact thing I'm talking about here. You've got to learn this stuff. So it's like there are some things we learned. Like the last time I used the word Pythagoras or hypotenuse, I can't remember. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's stuff that I know is useless to me. But at the end of the day, to be able to do simple mathematical equations in your head.
That's not a memory test. That's learning.
That's learning. It's essential for life because you're going to end up having to pay bills.
Imagine someone comes up to you with a gun one day and says, how do you work out the longest side of an isosceles triangle? What are you going to do? You're going to go, actually, A squared plus B squared equals the square root of C
I'm going to
squared.
break it down. What's the go with a gun? Has he got the gun pointed at you? Is it loaded?
He's like going to take your life unless you can give him the mathematical answer.
To work out what?
The longest side of an isosceles triangle.
Shit. I'm shot.
That's Pythagoras' theorem.
Did I not just say about 60 seconds ago that I have no idea about Pythagoras' theorem?
I still remember.
I've been out of school for a long time.
Right.
You're about to turn 40. I turned 40 about 2 weeks after you.
Right.
Pythagoras?
Yeah.
I don't need to know. I don't need to know. But listen, this guy reckons that the relevance of the HSC, and look at him wearing this suit, like
it's a nylon suit. What the f?
No, I know.
If only he'd learnt something at school, he'd know not to wear
He's a silver fox.
Non-man-made fibres, but
he reckons, look, he's pointing to the US model. Apparently the US model of schools, he reckons, is better. We should be looking at Finland and Sweden, who have the most amazing school systems in the world.
Yeah, although we'll give the US school system something.
What?
If we did bring that model out here, at least we'd have cool Coolio soundtracks.
Yeah, and homecoming.
Yeah.
Pep rallies.
Yep.
And raucous sex comedies that can be filmed on film that we could go and watch. There's no raucous high school sex comedy that Australia's ever produced.
Well, there's been a few scandals.
Like what?
Well, that chick teacher that was buffing all the boys.
I'm not talking about that. Like I'm talking about them.
Like Porky's.
Like Porky. We've never had a
Animal
Porky's.
House.
What about the year my voice broke?
That wasn't
Puberty Blues. Okay, we've got that.
Alvin Purple, but he wasn't at school.
Man, Alvin Purple. How the hell that got into cinemas in the 70s, I've got no idea.
Or Pacific Banana.
Graham Blundell with out.
Yeah.
We digress. We're going off the whole thing. There's now over 142 subjects tested in the HSC. 62 language subjects.
Hang on.
Yeah, 62 language subjects.
That's nearly half.
Yep. That you can be tested for. Even you can learn to speak Elvish from Lord of the Rings.
For your HSC?
Yes.
Yep,
exactly right. Now, all Australian kids obviously should be taught Mandarin or Cantonese. That is going to be important because obviously China is a superpower. They're in our region. It should have been done. We should have learnt that when we were at school. We had Japanese, French, and German.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we had.
Yep.
And we were languages other than English high school that we went to.
Yeah, we were, actually.
But they didn't teach Mandarin, they didn't teach Cantonese, and they didn't teach... Well, they didn't...
Admittedly, they're some of the hardest damn languages on earth to learn.
But we should have learnt it. We should have learnt it. They should have had enough foresight to do that, but they didn't do it.
China was still like behind the red curtain then, in the 80s, 90s.
So let me bring up one of your favourite people, King Paul.
Yes.
Paul Keating.
Yes.
He was very pro-China. when he was the Prime Minister. He should have been pushing the Education Department at that point to make sure that Cantonese and Mandarin was taught in schools.
Well, funnily enough, he's one of his predecessors. What's the one that comes after predecessor? It is
a predecessor.
All right, there's my education.
Would have been Bob Hawke.
No, keep going. The great K Money.
Kevin Rudd, just say his name.
He speaks fluent Chinese, Mandarin and Cantonese.